Hello, if you've been here before, you're most welcome. You know the situation. We have a chinwag, we do some crafting. What we're doing this week, I'm reading you another poem from Heather about a mole. I'm going to read you a little bit of my story. I've got a bit to show you because I've been making something that Lilly and the bee, you know Lilly, thank you Lilly. She showed last week was a tutorial and I just connected straight with it. So I've made my own version of it and I'll show you that. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me and I do hope you enjoy the episode. So we'll go straight over now to my crafting table. So this is what's been on my crafting table this week. Let me show you, I'll move you around. Still the socks, not touched. Too hot to knit, it's been boiling. I haven't touched the jumper. I don't want a jumper on my lap. I couldn't do it. I understand now why people don't knit in the summer, but we don't usually have this type of weather. I think yesterday it was 34. I've been very busy this week making something else because I watched Lilly and the bee. I expect you to do too. And Lilly showed us how to make a bag that she'd made. People had asked her to show. And she did a great job of showing us. And last week, I felt quite emotional. Last Thursday, when my episode went out, it was actually the day I was 75. And I miss my mum. You know, last year I was so busy clearing Mum's house and doing all the effects. I think I still felt as if she was here, but this year I felt quite emotional. Now, what do I do when I'm emotional? Well, what do I do anyway? I don't need to feel emotional, but what I particularly do when I'm emotional is craft. Grief and crafting for me go hand in hand. So I thought, right, I couldn't wait. I mean, literally, I switched off the video and started to think, what can I do? What can I do? I want to start now. And so I did. And that's what I've been doing this week. I'll show you what prompted me. I've got my fabric that I use in 3 old-fashioned suitcases, leather ones, you know. I really like them. And I've always kept my fabric in there. But I have got sort of a plastic, you know, storage box. And I've just got anything on bits, you know, I just shove in it. I tipped it out just to have a rummage through. You need inspiration, don't you? Unless you bought something specifically. And I came across a few things. When Pete and I went to Windsor Castle, long time ago now, it was a long time ago, we bought my mum and dad 2 napkins each. It came in a beautiful box. I've still got the box, actually. I use it for when I do my paper crafting, which I haven't done for months and months and months. But I do this winter hope to get it out. Anyway, I bought them 4 napkins and my mum literally used, well, that's not quite true because I looked in one of her cupboards, you know, when I was tidying around with her and chatting and that. And I found the box with these lovely napkins in. I said, Mum, you've got to use these. Why aren't you using them? Oh, they're too lovely, dear. They're too lovely. And I said, Mum, that's what they're for, to use, not to put in a cupboard. We're all the same, aren't we? Anything too precious we don't use. So she did that. And every day we went round there was her lunch or dinner, whatever, set and at the table and one of the napkins. And this is one of them. I couldn't use this one because the design is too big for what I wanted. So that one didn't get used. That one, the design was too big. But you can see the napkins are well used and they're, you know, they've had their sell by date, but the embroidery is so pretty. But there was one I could use, so I thought, oh, I'm going to use that. Then I came across some squares, Liberty Tana Lawn, and I'd made my mum I'm laughing because I'll tell you why. I'd made my mum this bag. She loved it. And I had a few squares left over. So that prompted me. I made mum this bag, Liberty Tana Lawn. It is an Alice Caroline pattern, actually. It's a lovely, easy pattern. It goes together well. And you can see the shape of it. Well, my mum used to come for lunch, particularly every Saturday, if not, more days. And she'd come with this little bag. And out she'd get her, it was Mary Poppins. Out would come her slippers. Yeah, they'd go on. Then a special tin with shortcake in, shortbread. Then there'd be a list. Oh, right, we'll go through the list, dear. Honestly, a number of things would come out, everything she wanted to talk about. So that bag has been well and truly used. Well and truly used. It's my treasure. I made one for myself. I made this one for myself. Well, I made this one. I think this is Wiltshire. And I said to Mum, what would you like? And of course, Mum being Mum chose that one. I knew she would. So I was very happy. So I found a few squares that I'd cut out that I didn't use for the front of the bag. So I thought, right, we can use that. Then I found a piece of fabric. It's real silk. It is actually silk. Can you see how much I've got? This beautiful sheen to it. And I've got a little shop in the town called Willow Fabrics. It's been here ever since I've lived here. We moved here in 1984 from London. And he often gets bits of fabric and bits of this and bits of that and sells, I think this was £1, I thought, right, let's see if I can use that. My friend Kay had bought me a piece of fabric that she thought reminded her of the photos that she'd seen of Tresco when we went to the Isles of Scilly, which was one of our favourite places. And this was the fabric. Do you remember it, Kay? And so I thought, that'll be fine for the lining, and that will go with the blue. For the background, I had some lovely fabric. I used it for the back of, I think, my great-grandson's quilt. I had quite a bit left over. And it's on the back of the Cave Facet quilt that I've shown you in the past on Pete's bed, and it's this. I really like it. It's beautiful fabric. And so I thought I could use that. And then particularly, my mum had, in fact, my daughter Nicola came round for a cup of tea yesterday, and I showed her the bag. She said, oh, Mum, I think I've eaten my tea off that when I was a little girl, because Mum had, a nest of tables and tables all around, and all on the tables were these. And Nicola said, I'm sure I had my tea off it when I was a little girl. That's how we just know this is, I just couldn't part with them. And another set here. So I thought, right, that was what I used, tipping all my stuff out. I'll show you the bag. And here it is. I'll show you the sides first. So I cut up the, hold fire. I cut one, well, you can see, I cut those off. I used the individual leaves around, sewed it on, and here's one of the napkins. So if you watch Lilly and the Bee, she tells you how to make this. You make each piece individually and then sew it together. I did it slightly differently, but don't we all do things slightly differently? So this is one side of the bag. I'll put it right up close and you can see. Sewed that on. Oh, these are on, can you see there, English paper piecing? From a distance, it all looks like one, doesn't it? But I did 6 of those, 6, and then 1 in the middle. Appliqued that on, sewed it on, and then did a little line round the outside. Lily does the same for hers. So that's one side. Another side, I did the English paper piecing. Mum loved this, you know, Strawberry Thief. Let me put that in. Strawberry Thief. And so again, I did the applique of the hexes. I mirror cut them, so not exactly, but tried to get them the same so that when you stand back, you've got that design and that in the middle. I went round the edge. So then I did one to remember her bag. So I just did squares. I just popped those on there. When you say just popped, yes, it's good. This is not a quick project because it's all done by hand. And the last side is a bigger one of those. I just thought I'd use the whole thing. So I stretched these bits out and just, you know, caught it with some fine thread. I didn't go round the edge of that one because it didn't need it. So that's the bag, the 4 sides. I've got this inside because I'm keeping my bits in. You know, I keep my little embroidery silks for doing the holds a lot. Rose garden patchwork, that's a pattern from her. I'm going to make another one with my own fabric. I really like it, it's so handy. Anyway, that goes with that. And then I've got my pile of ones I've done. I think you've seen most of them. I've done others. There's another one. I think you've seen that. Can't remember what you've seen now. Did you see that one? I think you did. Yes, you've seen that one, I know. My friend gave me this fabric, so one of my viewers wanted to know where I got it, but I just don't know. It was a present. Oh, I don't think you've seen that one. Oh, yes, I was going to embroider the bee, wasn't I? I embroidered the bee. Now, in the book, when you read the front of the book, it does say use 1 thread, but then it goes on to qualify and says if that's Valdani thread. If you're using DMC, use 3 threads. So that's what I've done there. So there we are. That's that one. I think you've seen the rest. In fact, this is Anita Jerem art something. I'll put it on the screen. It's fun though, isn't it? Yep. All of these you saw last week. Here's another little one. They're so cute. So they're coming along. I keep them in this bag. That's my project bag for this. Let me turn this inside out. And then I'll show you how it all goes together. So look, there's the blue on the bottom and there's that fabric round the top. I did put a ribbon round the top. I just thought it finished it off. Now, Lily goes over and over when she sews. You know me, I don't do that. I do ladder stitch so you get a nice smooth edge. That's how I showed you how to do these, put these together with the ladder stitch, you know. And so I ladder stitched that side. Then I turned it round, which meant this side was still open, and I ladder stitched that. I think there's one I've missed here. I haven't done it. Yeah, so I've ladder stitched outside there, as you can see, but I've yet to do, good job I've shown you, I've yet to ladder stitch that. Just gather that, you know, top and bottom, and then you get a beautiful smooth edge. And I put the ribbon around the top. So it can stay open with my bits in. Yeah, it's not on the table. And then you pull the strings and you do them up. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Can you see? Pulled together. It's closed. I put a little, I had these in my button box. So there's one on each end. And you could use anything you like. This is just what I had in. And then, of course, it folds completely flat, so it doesn't take up any space. And gradually that will get filled up with, you know, my quilt that I'm making. Just sits on my table, open and square. But then if I want to close it, I find the ends, flip that in, pull the ends, do a big bow, and there it is. And I put that on the bottom. So every piece of that reminds me of my mum, and it was so special last week. So thank you, Lily. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So that's that. The other thing that I found that I was taught when I was taught dressmaking was how to turn a corner. Don't cut the edge off. How am I going to show you if you're interested? Okay, I've sewn those two together, let's just say. Now, some people, I know Lily did, but some people cut the corner off. You know, it works. But I don't, because I was taught when I was dressmaking, if you want to get a really nice sharp collar or sharp cuffs or anything like that, don't cut the corner off like that. Well, I mean, you can if you want, but I don't. I don't cut the corner off like that because you've got nothing to work with then. If you fold that over and then fold that one over and then get hold of it, turn it inside out, you've got that piece of fabric to make the point. It's just the way I was taught. So that's the way I did that on that. I found that easy then. No poking bits out because they're already poked. They're already there. And also the ladder stitch means that you haven't got any raw edges inside. I'm a bit fussy like that. It's just, you know me, I've got a thing about it, haven't I? So how can I thank you enough, Lily? That really kept me going last week, and it took me a long time. Like Lily does say, it's not a quick make. I expect you could make it on the machine and then line it, and you know, that's a different ball game, isn't it? And I think as well, because I'm reading my story, you know, I've been saying I was born, you know, August the 8th, 1949, and it was a boiling hot day, which it was, and all of that, and showing you my storybook last week. I just think I've connected way back there. And then last Thursday, yeah, I felt I wanted to connect again, so I did. So what? I'm going to go and sit in a comfy seat now, and I'm going to have a chat with you. I'm going to read you a poem now, but before I do, I want to say a special hello to Sharon. I know you're following along now with Chinwag. And a special hello to all the people in St Matthew's Care Home. I know Kate has introduced you, and we have a laugh together apparently, so welcome. I hope you enjoy Heather's poem. It's called Janice and Her Two Dogs, Robbie and Andrew, Meet a Mole. I mean, how do you think even that up? I don't know, but here we go. Jan drew the curtains, rubbed her eyes and wondered what to wear, then pulled on jeans and jumper and brushed her tangled hair. All was well. The dogs were fine. A walk would help time pass. Then she looked outside in horror at a molehill on the grass. She pressed her nose against the glass. Her brow began to furrow as she saw a small black furry head pop out beneath a burrow. "Oh no," she cried, and ran downstairs. "That mole will have to go." And she looked around the kitchen for something she could throw. Taking aim, she hurled a plate, the butter and a coaster, a loaf, a box of shredded wheat, a teacup, and then the toaster. "I can't enjoy my morning now as battle lines are drawn, and I don't have any breakfast as it's strewn across the lawn." From out the door flew dogs, and Jan, her knitted cardie flapped. "I'll get you now, you little pest. You're well and truly trapped." The darting eyes, the drooling jowls, the howling as if mad, the gnashing teeth, the foaming mouth, and the dogs were just as bad. "You'd better run, you little fiend. I'm coming for you, mole." It saw her, shuddered, gave a gasp, and shot out of the hole. He looked around, but where to hide? The shed was just too far. The wheelie bins were much too high, so he dived beneath the car. "Get him, dogs!" Jan shouted out. "It's time you earned your keep." And they chased him up a tree stump, where he took a mighty leap. He landed on a pile of leaves beside the BT mast, and spotting the approaching dogs, he thought he'd breathed his last. But darling dogs they proved to be. They didn't want to hurt this frightened little mole who introduced himself as Bert. "Excuse me, please," wee Bert exclaimed. "My eyesight's very bad. I was heading up to Barnet, but went off course just a tad." "Oh, Bert," said Andrew, "you should run. She'll skin you while you wait and make you into winter gloves, a most unpleasant fate." "Robbie, you distract her. Go and chew the garden hose. Come this way, wee fella," and he nudged Bert with his nose. Concealed by Andrew's well-groomed coat, all free from mud and burrs, Bert set off like the clappers. His little legs were blurs. Down a grassy hole he dived to continue on his way. "Don't forget us," called out Robbie. "Please come back another day." Well, Bert in fact came back that night, while all of Barnet slept. He burrowed, then he surfaced, until Jan's garden had been wrecked. Next morning on the once green lawn, with earth piled high and new, read a message made from molehills, from Bert. "Thank you." I just got the picture, haven't you? This little Scottish mole and the two dogs. And wow, Jan, what a woman. Bit of a temper there, eh? I hope you enjoyed that. So I'm going to read you a bit of my story now. I'll see you in a minute. I think I'm just going to have a sip of water, and yeah, I'll be back on. I need it today. The garden, it's a river of straw now, not a river of of grass. We have no grass left. It will grow again. It only needs a couple of downpours and back will come the grass. But I'll show you. I'll put a picture up here of what the garden looks like. 2 weeks without rain and 2 weeks of hot temperatures. Yeah, that's how the garden goes. But it will soon come back to how it was. Anyway, what? I'm going to read you a bit of my story. So we're getting on, really. My brother's born, isn't he? And, oh yes, last time I talked to you about going to the clinic and... my books, yeah, Little Kanga's Pocket, and I read that story to Tommy yesterday. He popped round, And he was fascinated. He absolutely loved it. And my daughter said, "Oh, Mum, that was my favourite book." And of course it was mine. It was published in 1952. So yeah, if you keep things, they go through the family, don't they? Anyway, let's get on with this week. I was very excited to go on holiday to Gurnard Pines at Ryde on the Isle of Wight. People flocked to the holiday camps, having fun in the open air after the war. I remember the Keep Fit classes and shows that were put on, which Mum and Dad always joined in. Dad volunteered, and I have photos of him more often than not dressed in women's clothes, mucking about as usual, jumping in the swimming pool and goodness knows what. He always liked having a bit of fun, Dad. I have a feeling Mum was cajoled into these activities. I don't remember doing much myself, apart from entering Chris into a bonny baby competition and feeling very let down when he didn't win. I don't know if they do bonny baby competitions now. That's it, you feel let down if your baby doesn't come first, because obviously it does in your life. We then started going to Mevergizy, which is in Cornwall. Chris was about 2, and we took the camera on holiday with us every year. And so I have a record of these early years. I was about 9. We have a large box of 8mm movie films, which are pretty similar in content, except we gradually grew up on film. Relations lived at Mever in a fisherman's cottage, and before my brother was born, I went to stay there with my nan and grandpa and Anne, my aunt, my dad's sister. Well, Anne was only 10 years older than me, so yeah, we were very close. Well, we still are. It was a small, old-fashioned place, and I slept on a horsehair mattress on an iron bed with oil lamps to light the room. I can remember it as clearly as day. It was like, you know, when you go over these museums, it was like one of those, sleeping in this tiny little room. Anyway, I loved it. Had a big impression on me. No electric light. Yeah. I had a bowl, you know, and my, I called her my Aunt Em. She poured me water in that, and I could wash there in the mornings. It was quite something. When we went on holiday, when I went on holiday with Mum and Dad, we stayed with the Coast Guard or rented holiday cottages. And that wasn't like they are now. I mean, Mevergizy now is full of holiday cottages. It's the whole thing now. But then it wasn't full of holiday cottages. Somebody would go away and you'd stay there. We stayed with the Coast Guard, you know, they let out rooms or... Yeah, it wasn't like it is now, but we always managed to get somewhere to stay. Dad was friendly with the local fishermen, especially Russell Blamey, and we went fishing probably every day. Russell had a complete and utter Cornish accent. He was a Cornish man, and I could hardly understand anything he said, quite frankly. I just couldn't. I just remember that. I hated catching the mackerel and having to watch them squirm and writhe around on the bottom of the boat. Russell would put string through their mouths, and Dad and Chris would proudly get off the boat holding maybe 24 mackerel. Speaking to my brother now, he didn't enjoy that either. I think Dad was the only proud one, but Chrissy went along with it, and I've got pictures of him holding the mackerel up, you know. Yuck. What I did like was the green blue of the sea and the caves. Russell would turn the motor off and would gently drift deep into the dark Cornish caves. He told us that the seaweed floating in these caves was the hair of mermaids, and I almost believe him. The sea, that's what I loved. The coastline, the fresh air, the open spaces. It was a very special time. Every year, when it was time to go home, I'd cry my eyes out. Dad'd laugh, but I knew he wanted to stay as well. I've never really realised why. I love the Mirabilia. If you do cross stitch, the Mirabilia do wonderful beaded mermaids, and I've always wanted to do one. I've done other mirabilia ones, but never a mermaid, and I just was always drawn to it. And maybe it's because I have this strong memory of the quiet and going in. Some of the caves were really deep, and we'd just go in. That's probably why I want to do, well, I still do want to do one, but I know I won't, because it's a good couple of years' work, and at the minute I don't want to take that on. But there we are. I know some of you have done them, and they're beautiful. So that's it for this week. Little film. I always have a little film, don't I? This week, Jan and Bob came to stay. Oh, it's a couple of weeks ago now, and I've had a few little films and photos left over in my phone, so I made a little film at the beginning of that. And then today, the other night we went out for an evening walk, and it's Folk Week here. Every corner you go down, everywhere, in all the places, in the schools, in the theatre, everywhere, there's people singing, giving lessons. It's just music, music, music. And this morning we went out for our walk, and it was just so lovely. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, and everywhere we turned there was a different band playing, and I just filmed a couple. What particularly took me, I've left it, I've got it over there, hang on. What particularly struck me was the solo Appalachian clog. It's a workshop actually, tomorrow and Friday. Kay Anderson and Josie Anstey, along with Graham Anstey on banjo, are bringing a new look to Broadstairs Appalachian clogging workshops. And there's the film of them this morning, and it was just so lovely. They told me the history of it in North Carolina and around there. I think it's across America, really. You would know more than me. But I thoroughly enjoyed it this morning. So they're up, a couple of others, and then it's goodbye. So until next time, I do usually say keep your eye open for me, but you regulars, you always say we do keep our eye open, we're subscribed. So I won't say that again this week. I'll just say see you next time. Take care, look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
me sing around South Australia. As I land on Australia's sand, eagle away, all away, with a bottle of whiskey in my hand. We're bound to South Australia. All away, you're rolling king, eagle away, all away, all away, you'll hear me sing. We're bound to South Australia. All away, you're rolling king, eagle away, all away, all away, you'll hear me sing. We're bound for South Australia.
Lives there.